What we're going to have a look at now is multi-pitch stance changeovers, but when block leading is going on. Block leading is a term some people use when just one person in the climbing partnership is leading every pitch. So it could be that your partner's less experienced than you perhaps, or maybe the route's a little bit harder, so it's going to be the same person out front all the time. And how you organise yourself at a stance then starts to become a little bit more problematical, because we need to get the second up to here clipped into the belay properly so that I can then lead through again. So here I am on my stance. I've got 3 great anchors in my wobbly dry stone wall, and the first thing we're going to have a look at is using a big sling to connect the whole system together. This is where one of the big 240 centimetre slings comes into its own. Now, generally, I always like to use the rope to clip into a belay. And we'll have a think about why we might use a sling in a sec. So you'll notice I've got the stitching right up there next to the first carabiner, and then I'm going to pull the tape up from the inside. It's going to go into the top one. You'll notice I'm doing all the screw gates up. Again, run it round. Now there's a snap link here. Oh, controversial, not a screw gate. Hanging in space, it's going to be under load. There is no way the sling is going to jump out of that. So now I've brought down the sling in the middle. I'm thinking about where my partner's coming up from, where the load is going to be. And this is where you need to be really meticulous with a sling. It's not quite as simple as it is with the rope to get all the angles and the tensions just right. So really take your time and think about it. This point here then, I'm going to put an overhand knot in. Get that nice and dressed. It can be easy to get a bit of a mess there, so just make sure everything's looking good. Fab. And then I need to think about where I want to stand and where my partner wants to stand. Comfort comes into that, but also I'm thinking about where I'm going to go next, and we don't want to do too much dancing on the stance. So I want to head up this way, so I'm actually going to put myself with my back and my shoulder to that, and then my partner can come in here. So that works for me. I'm gonna put myself in there. Now then, if you look at the sling here, if I just step even a little bit left or right, watch what happens to the tensions on the anchors. See how that one's gone slack? If I go a little bit this way, this one will go slack, or possibly that one. And this is why a sling can be a bit limiting. It's very sensitive to even a little change in direction. Why might I use it then rather than the rope? It could be that my partner is quite a bit less experienced, and going backwards and forwards with the rope is going to confuse them. I don't know, you know, then maybe it's a time thing, and this just is really efficient for doing longer multi-pitch routes. It's a decision you need to make. Yeah, great. So now ready to think about getting a belay plate into there. Safe, hun.
Okay, you're off.
Where am I going to put the rope then? If I put the rope here, that's going to get in the way for when my partner needs to stand and when we need to swap the gear over. So I'm actually going to go over the top, look, and just pop it out of the way. Great. So my handsome husband has arrived at the belay ledge, and the first thing I'm going to be really mindful of is the dead rope, the brake rope here. And you see I've got 2 hands on it. It's very easy to get distracted, and if I let go of this, he's not safe. So I'm going to keep hold of that until he's clipped into the belay directly and doesn't need me to look after him anymore. Fab. All right, do you want to get yourself clipped in? Yeah, you got it. So you can see Alan's being mindful straight away about where he's standing, and if I take my weight off the belay a little bit, these two bits of gear are engaging, this one not so much. So again, just think about maybe getting them a little bit round so they're right in the apex of the sling. Good, so what we're ready to do now is swap all the gear over. I'm going to take him off belay. And one of the things Al's going to think about is where he wants the rope to go. So we need to backstack the rope or reflake the rope so that my end is coming off the top of the pile. At the minute it's underneath. So as I climb up, I'm going to pull up all those loops and snarls with me as I go. So we're going to feed that through. Before I do that, the two of us would maybe have a chat about where the best place to put the rope is. We could put coils, slack coils, over the top of the rope like this. Again, that's not an easy thing for somebody who's not done a lot of climbing to manage, and it can really compromise their belaying. If we're going to pop it on the floor, we want it to be underneath, directly underneath their brake hand. So the first thing I'd get him to think about is which hand would he want as his braking hand on the belay plate. And here, yeah, he's identified that he wants the right hand, in which case we're going to want the rope directly underneath it. So that can be fed down onto a pile there. Al's being mindful of it running across the top of mine. I can help him here. I can just pop it over my head, which will make life a little bit easier for him, and then he can just run it through. And while he's doing that, maybe I can have a grab of any gear that's on his harness. Okay.
Okay.
Climbing. So let's have a look at this, but this time we're going to build the belay with the rope. I've tied into all three anchors using the rope and then brought everything back to a big boa. And you can sort of see straight away I have loads more play. And that's because the central point, the sort of apex, if you like, of all of this is right down here close to me rather than up there. So let's bring our partner in and see how we're going to get him attached to all of that in a way that isn't going to cause any tangles with the rope. Fab. So he comes up to the belay ledge. Marvellous. And again, going to be mindful of this rope so that we don't have any issues of me letting go of it until he's actually clipped in. Great, I got 3 bits of gear. So we're going to get Al to clip in to the first bit of gear on the left, and then he's going to work methodically across the anchor system. You might find you just need to lean forward a little bit as the belayer to take the tension out so he can get another carabiner. So he's going to be on my left, so you can see he's put the carabiner on the left. Great. And where I went into all of them and then came back to my pear shape, you can see Alan's going to do one at a time. And that just makes things a little bit less confusing again. So what he wants to do here now is to go underneath all of my ropes with the next arms of his belay. That's the only thing you need to be thinking about here to keep the ropes really simple and clean. So I'm not worrying about anything else at this point. I'm not trying to get gear off his harness or look at the guidebook. This is mission critical primary safety stuff. So giving way to him a little bit so that he gets the good position now. And again, if you didn't have 3 screw gates, you could use a snap link. If you were concerned about the snap links, you could just go back to back. If the snap link's hanging in space like this one is, no danger of a rope jumping out of it. It's a judgment call. And hopefully you can see, by working methodically from each anchor point, it helps keep any confusion about which loop of rope you're working with down to a minimum here. So Al can see quite clearly which bit of gear he's playing with, what he needs to be doing with his clovages. Nice. Good. Yeah, happy with that? There we go.
Safe.
So he's safe, great, doesn't need me anymore. I'm taking off Belay. So now we're back to the back stacking of the rope, and then eventually Alan would get to me, put me on Belay, we'll have swapped the gear over. The only thing that really needs to be thought about in a slightly different way perhaps is myself when it comes to leading off. So as I take these clovages out, there's going to be an awful lot of slack. So I don't want to ditch all of them out of the crab in a oneer. It's worth doing it one at a time and letting your belayer take that in. So we're not going to backstack the rope, we're going to shortcut that a little bit, otherwise you guys are going to get bored. So if I just do that, Al's going to put me on belay there. It really winds me up that he takes his belay plate out. But he's not dropped it yet, so. Hey. Good?
Good.
Alright, here we go then. So I'm going to take the first one out. And then out of here, now I'm going to take that crab with me because I might want it on the next belay. And you can see Al's just taking in the slack so that if I step back off the ledge or sheep falls out of the sky and lands on top of me, I'm not going to go miles off the belay ledge. There we go. That one can go around the back, and then that one. Neaten everything up, get it round the back, out the way. I'm ready to look for my first bit of gear and head up the next pitch.